5-4. Hi, Jace.
How you doing?
Yeah, the end of another week. So winter's arrived here in Japan. It's been like Sligo weather here. Sunshine, squalls, hailstones. We've had the lot. So, yeah, what about you? How's your week been?
Yeah, busy. Getting into pantomime season here now. So busy times for us theatricals and creatives.
Yeah, it brings back memories.
Weather's not too bad. Yeah, considering it's November, it's actually quite mild. I mean, I was out in the hot tub earlier, which was very, normally when you get out the hot tub in winter, you get out of a hot tub and you're shivering like mad, but I was fine. So. Yeah,
pantomime brings back memories. I remember going to the Everyman in Cheltenham with the school, and who's the guy that used to present Gardening Today was always the guy. Was it Cyril Fletcher? Was that his name? So
I went on stage with Cyril Fletcher in the pantomime at the Everyman.
Wow!
Theatre. He dragged me out of the audience.
Wow!
That was my first time on stage. He dragged me out of the audience. Yeah, Cyril Fletcher. He used to be on That's Life as well, didn't he?
All right. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, Puss in Boots.
He always played ugly.
Puss in Boots is one I saw, and the other one. What's the three men in a pea green boat? What was that one? Is that the same one or
the Owl and the Pussycat?
Yeah, the Owl and the Pussycat. That's the one. The Owl and the Pussycat. That's it. Yeah,
I got a feeling that Puss in Boots was the one I was on stage in.
Yeah. Probably the same one. Although I'm a few years older than you, so maybe it wasn't. But
they used to repeat them. They used to repeat them, churn them out every year.
Yeah. I was just saw it on Twitter the other day. A word, is it hiereth or something? It's a Welsh word, and it means a kind of nostalgia. A harping for days gone by and all that. Is hiereth or something like that.
Yeah. Talking of which, rest in peace, Gerald Sinstadt.
That's right. Yeah, I was surprised, sad to hear that. So he was one of my favourites, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think he was one of my favourites because back in the 70s, I don't think a lot of young people realize, God, I sound like an old man, you know what I mean? But I don't think a lot of young people realize that watching football back in the 70s, was a completely different experience to watching it today. I mean, these days
it was a treat, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, it was a treat because you couldn't watch any game you wanted to on the internet, and all the games weren't staggered. All the games were at the same time on a Saturday afternoon, 3:00. They weren't on TV. You'd get a highlights package. So, and if you didn't live, in a town where they had a club. Well, to be honest, our town did have a club, but even back then, if your family didn't have a car, just going to the other side of town could take you the best part of a morning or an afternoon. These days, you pop in your car, you can be there in 5 or 10 minutes. It's a completely different world. You didn't have mobile phones, so.
Well, even back in the day, like you say, in the 70s, like match of the day,
yeah,
you'd anticipate your club, your favourite team being on match of the day. It wasn't guaranteed. They'd show you 2 or 3 games most.
That's right.
And you wouldn't see the goals from the other games.
That's right. Well, actually, I think, the earlier match of the days used to only show one and a bit of another one, I think it was. So they'd have the main game, and then you'd see a few clips from another game, and that would be it.
They used to show you the match of the day.
That's right. That's right. You know, and invariably it wasn't Man City in my case, so it'd be somebody else, you know, and that was if your mum let you stay up to watch it, which in my case, in the earlier days anyway, wasn't the case. And then, so that would be.
I was a bit like that. Sports night. Huh?
But then
Sports night was a treat.
Yeah, that's right. I used to actually sneak down because my mum used to go to bed early. I used to wait until she went to bed and then I'd sneak down the stairs. But I think she knew. I used to sneak down. So I used to sneak down in the dark and watch it in the dark. But I think she knew. But
it's funny when I think back to all those great European nights at Anfield in the 70s. When I just even think about them, I always hear in my head sports night music. It's funny, isn't it?
Harry Carpenter.
Yeah.
So, but then, so that would be BBC. But then, on the Sunday afternoon, you'd have, and it was daytime, so you could watch it unless your mum wanted to watch ice skating or This Is Your Life or something. Then,
or Little House on the Prairie.
Yeah. So anyway, usually on Sunday afternoon, it didn't, as far as I can remember, it didn't clash with anything. So Star Soccer would be on at 2 or 3 o'clock, and we lived, well, now it's the Central South area, but in our day it was like the Midlands. ATV was our local ITV channel. Although you could get, if you had a good enough TV or strong enough aerial, you could get HTV West or HTV Cymru. And then, but generally we just had ATV. So you'd have BBC One, BBC Two, and then ATV. There was no Channel 4. And even then, I think BBC Two didn't come in until, was it the late 60s? So, yeah, it might have been something like that. So, Star Soccer would be on. So you'd get all the Midlands football. So it'd be Coventry, Wolves, Birmingham City, Aston Villa. And your commentator would be Hugh Johns. So,
did you say Wolves? I'm sure they used to be called 1-0 Wolves, didn't they?
All right, yeah. And Mr. 1-0 was Hugh Johns. So he was another great commentator. But you were talking about, match of the day, you would be hoping that they would show your team, which they often didn't. But it was similar on ATV today because beside, Cheltenham then were a non-league team. And as a kid, you supported Liverpool and I supported Man City. And maybe, I'm sure it's similar for you. So you'd be hoping, because they did the same at the end of the Midlands game, they'd show the highlights, brief highlights from a game, but you'd be hoping firstly that they'd pick a game from the region that your team were from. So in our case, it'd be Northwest, which was Granada TV, and it wouldn't be Jerry Harrison commentating on Norwich or Ipswich or Brian Moore from London. You'd be hoping firstly that it'd be Granada highlights, and then after that, in my case, I'd be hoping it'd be Man City. And if it was Man City, then the commentator at that time was Gerald Sinstadt. And so he used to be the commentator for a lot of classic games at Main Road. Yeah.
Well, John Holm was another one from up north.
Yeah, maybe that was Northeast, I think, maybe, or you see a lot of Middlesbrough, I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think then Gerald Sinstadt, he went to the BBC, I think, after that, maybe in the 80s, was it? And And
I know he did a lot of sports night stuff.
all right. But, back when he was at Granada, they used to refer to him as Gerald Sinstadt. But I remember when he went to the BBC, I can remember Des Lynam in a chummy kind of way would be referring to him as Jerry Sinstadt. And I saw comment on Twitter, saying, I think it's true, none of this stats and transfer rumor stuff. He just commentate on the game, and we were talking about that the last time, with the commentators from the 70s. So yes, so I don't know whether you have any other memories, Jace, of Gerald Sinstadt.
I just thought he had a great voice. He was just one of those great commentators, like you say, no nonsense. He'd just say it how it is.
Yeah, I can still hear, Summerby, Lee, Bell. I can hear it, and cracking atmosphere at the old main road under the, it's fantastic. Yeah, the other thing I noticed,
I think he did a bit of ITV commentary when one of the World Cups. I'm sure he did.
Yeah.
But I couldn't tell you which one, but I just seem to remember him being involved with the World Cup for ITV. But
thing I've read about that, I mean, he was 91. Wow, I mean, just time's moving on. I mean, I can't believe he's 91, so I was just reading a bit of his obituary as well. His parents were killed, I think, in a bombing in the war. So, he was orphaned from a young age. Okay, so Jace, I mean, it's been the last one we did was at the beginning of the last week, I think. So since then, you've been to to Fratton Park to see Cheltenham get a decent draw and possibly a disappointing draw in the end. Bearing in mind Cheltenham were winning. I saw on the highlights the Vassal chants. I mean, he just panicked, in my opinion. So saw the glory.
Slipped, but I mean, it was hard to miss it. That's one of those. That was like one of those shots that you used to have on the edge of the D at Bentham, and it would come off your shin guard, and you think, "How the hell did I miss that?" Oh dear! It was hard to miss it. It really was.
Also, I saw on Twitter you mentioned a penalty shout. I didn't see that on the highlights. Anyway, tell us about the game. Can you tell us more about the game?
Well, yeah, I mean, Cheltenham started really well. They scored in 6 minutes. It was a sparse away stand. I mean, I think it was 250 odd or 240 odd Cheltenham fans. Very, very noisy. I have a comment to make about that in a minute, but I'll go back to that. I think it was about 18,000 or so in the ground. Noisy Pompey fans as you'd expect. Although there is a corner. So you've got the away end here, and then got the corner. Pompey fans, I swear, they spend all of their 90 minutes watching the away fans. They don't even look at the game. They just don't even look at the game. And you're thinking, what are these guys on? Anyway, so Cheltenham started bright, but I think probably hated it in the first half. Cheltenham should have gone in at the break at least 2-1 or even 2-0 up. Pompey's goal was a goal. It said in the report it wasn't a header. The guy, he was one of those where he sort of like slaps it down with his foot into the ground, and then it loops up with the keeper, and the keeper has about 3 weeks to watch it go in, soft goal to give away really, but it was coming. And the reason it was coming, and I tweeted our friend Chris when I was at the game, and I said, they're going to score in a minute. I said, because they've latched on to the fact that we're quite weak down the left-hand side of defence. Whether it was because Hussey was playing poorly, or whether it was because he had Freestone on the inside of him and he was a bit unsure about Freestone. I mean, Freestone, he's a young lad, and he is improving week by week, but sometimes I feel he's a little bit out of his depth sometimes. And then Matty Pollock went off injured as well, which didn't look great, to be honest. But he came back the next game, so it wasn't that serious. Yeah, so Pop switched on and everything was coming down the right. So they had a right winger and a guy on the end, and they kept swapping overlapping and all this kind of stuff. And they were fleecing us down that left-hand side. So I text Chris and I said, Duff's got to spot this. He's got to spot this and he's got to sort it out one way or the other. Sure enough, they not only did they score, second half starts, they're doing exactly the same thing. Oh, right back, Sean Long, he was a spectator. He hardly touched the ball. You know, they brought nothing down their left-hand side at all. Nothing. And for me, that's just basics. You know, it's basics. We brought on a sub in the second half, changed it a little bit, but yeah, and then right at the end, one of our subs, young lad, Joseph, he was taken out. I mean, he went for a header in the box. There was about 2 minutes to go. So the ball's coming over, he goes for a header, and the next thing, he's got 2 hands in his back that literally shoved him. So he went that way, and the ball just goes that way. And I saw the ref went to go like this, and then he looks down, and then goes, carry on. And it's like, hang on a minute, what are you doing? What was he looking for? Was he looking for the linesman's flag? Or was he looking to see how many fans were going to fleece him if he gave that penalty at Fratton Park 2 minutes from the end?
Yeah.
I think it was the latter, to be honest, because if that had been up the other end of the ground, that would have been a Stonewall penalty all day long.
Yeah. Wow.
And because it was such a Stonewall penalty, they don't show it in the highlights, right? Because they would know they'd have to call out the referee for being a complete and utter prat, basically, and they don't do it. That really annoys me.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like I said before the game, I would have been happy with Fratton Park, bearing in mind they did a 6-1 the last time. But at the end of the night, I was actually disappointed we didn't take all 3 points, to be fair.
Yeah. Well, notwithstanding that, so yeah, I think that's a sign of progress anyway. So that was on the back of a draw with Sheffield Wednesday. So yeah. I think there was another draw as well, wasn't there? I don't know. Okay, so I don't know whether it was that night. So there were those domestic games, and then there were also games in Europe. So United turned around. This is the first game. Was it the first game? Or Ronaldo, he got. Was that the first game? They won 3-2 at home. No, that must have been the return. Sorry, no, he got a last-minute equaliser, didn't he, for United in Italy?
Yeah, he did the game in the other leg as well, didn't he? He got the last-minute goal in the other leg.
Yeah, so he's got 5 in 4, I think, in Europe in the Champions League this year. Yeah. So, so what do you make of his performances for United? I mean, he's scoring the goals, but I read he doesn't make any tackles. I mean, is it the goals worth him not contributing in other ways, or are they losing something?
I don't know. For me, he seems to be, when it comes to the European games, he seems to be a different player when it comes to European games and what he is in the Premier League, to be honest. I don't know whether he might even be after some kind of record. I don't know, but they're really strange in the Premier League at the moment. They're just not at it, are they?
Yeah, I just wonder, is it like that Billy Joel song from the late 70s? We're doing it all for Ronnie, so doing it all for Lena, Billy Joel. So is he doing it for Manchester United, or is he doing it for himself?
I think they bought him because they panicked that he was going to go to Man City, personally. And if he'd have gone to Man City, especially with Man City firing on all cylinders, they would have. I reckon they'd have been unstoppable, to be honest.
Do you think City wanted him, or they were just they were just having a laugh, or do you think they wanted him?
I think it's hard to tell sometimes with Guardiola, because I think if it had been the case if Ronaldo had said to City, right, I want to come to City, come and get me, I think they probably would have taken him, to be honest, irrespective of what they'd spent on Grealish. But I'm not sure. Guardiola would have guaranteed him as many games, perhaps, as what he's getting at Man United. I don't know. And certainly, if he started playing for Man City the way he started playing for Man United in the Premier League, Guardiola would pick him every game like Solskjaer does. But yeah, it's hard to say, really. It's a funny situation. I think it's a situation all round. I mean, it's the same thing with Jadon Sancho. I mean, they spent a fortune on Jadon Sancho, and all he does is sit on the bench.
Yeah, he's going to regret that. He's going to, okay, financially, he's not regretting it, but career-wise...
he's already been dropped from the England squad, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's going to regret it. So he should have stayed at Dortmund, although I think he always regarded Dortmund as a stepping stone to somewhere like United.
He should have gone to Liverpool. He should have gone to Liverpool, personally.
Yeah, I think Liverpool would have been good. That would have been good for him.
They wanted him. They definitely wanted him. But yeah.
Yeah, I think we got this argument. Yeah, we got this argument, about goals. I mean, you could say the same with Aguero. I mean, Guardiola didn't renew his contract, so we've got this argument, and you can balance Aguero against Jesus, so Aguero scores all the goals, but Jesus puts in the work, I mean, Guardiola doesn't seem that worried about Jesus's inability to convert, so personally, I just find Jesus very frustrating, because he's going to have the chance a lot of the time, and he's not gonna pull it in the net. But to be honest, I'm not going to question Guardiola with his record, but I just find Jesus very frustrating. Okay, so staying in Europe, so I noticed Ajax, they won in Germany. So remember, a few years ago they were literally seconds from a Champions League final against Liverpool, I think it was. Do you remember when Tottenham got the last gasp winner in Amsterdam? So
yeah.
So, but their manager, I saw he's being touted for maybe lined up for City when presumably Guardiola moves. Man United has also been linked. I think he actually did leave Ajax and went to Germany, and it didn't work out. Or was it Italy? But and you bear in mind as well, Ajax they've lost some players. They lost that Frankie de Jong to Barcelona. Matthias, I can't remember his name, the guy who went to Juventus, but they're doing it again in Europe. So, and you were talking about being Cruyff was your first idol. Is that right? I think and of course he famously played for Ajax. To be honest, I love watching Ajax because they've got that culture, don't they? They still that DNA that they always seem to play the same way, and it's often the way we like to watch the game. So I also love their kit, and that's the thing about them as well. That they always seem to wear that kit. Is that my imagination? Have you seen them in any other kits? I love that. They always, yeah.
No, I haven't. They've always worn that same kit. Yeah,
I love that. They don't, there's none of this, we're wearing this kit this week, another one the next week, and then even another one after that. But it's an iconic shirt, isn't it? That Ajax shirt. The other thing about that, I just wonder, so I mentioned Frankie de Jong, and then is it De Ligt, Matthias De Ligt or something like that? He went to Juventus. We talked about Jadon Sancho. He's gone to Man United. In the past, I remember Liverpool bought one or two players from Dortmund. I can't remember their players, but when they arrived, they didn't play like they played with their previous clubs, and I sometimes wonder about that. Is that just because they're having problems adjusting to the new environment, or is it because of the way that the former teams had played made them look better than individually than what they actually are individually? I'm trying to think of that guy. What was the name of the guy that went from Dortmund to Liverpool, but it didn't work out? I can't remember his name. Maybe 10 years ago or so. Is it Son? Sorry?
Not Emre Can, no?
Not Emre Can. No, there was another guy. He was a midfielder, but I can't remember his name. But you get that some guys they look fantastic. Then they go somewhere else. They like Wilfred Boney. Do you remember he went from Swansea to City, and I swear it was like Chris Campton, from Marine to Cheltenham. Just absolutely, he was absolutely terrible. But do you remember when he was at Swansea, he looked fantastic.
Yeah, he did look. He looked half about for everybody apart from Cheltenham. Mind you, I can list a whole list of players like that have played for Cheltenham that have been all right previously. They come to Cheltenham, they've been absolutely pants, and then they've gone to somewhere else and they're scoring goals for fun. So anyway,
I think also when we look at other teams' play as well, we kind of tend to look at the things that frighten us, whereas when we look at players playing for us, it's kind of a micro scrutiny. We look at absolutely everything.
Yeah.
Okay. Also, I think I retweeted something about Gareth Southgate to you, and you suggested or you posed the question whether he might have been in talks with Newcastle, although as it transpired he didn't go to Newcastle because Eddie Howe has gone there. But what I liked about Gareth Southgate's press conference, I guess it was because of the World Cup qualifiers coming up. He said, when asked about his contract, he said, "My contract is none of your business."
Yeah.
So I kind of like his no nonsense style in the press conferences. Okay, staying in Europe. So Rangers drew at Brøndby. I think Lyon are a long way ahead in that group, but I'm just wondering now that Gerard has gone to Aston Villa, whether Rangers' form is suddenly going to take a nosedive. Did you see that? Steven Gerrard's the new Villa manager.
Just reading that now. I hadn't noticed. I'm just literally reading that now. Yeah. So a few friends of mine that won't be happy about that. When's he taking over from?
Well, Dean Smith was fired, wasn't he?
Yeah. When's he taking over from? Is it immediate effect?
I didn't read that, but I'm guessing it's with immediate effect.
Wow.
So what are your thoughts on him going to Villa?
Well, it's hard to say because, I mean, to quote a friend of mine who's a lifelong Villa fan.
Yeah.
When I said, "How do you feel about?" Well, I actually said to him, "How do you feel about either Frank Lampard Jr. or Stevie Gerrard going to Villa?" Because I know Lampard was in the frame at one point.
Yeah.
He said, "I bloody hope it's not Steven Gerrard." I said, "Why did you say that?" And he said, "Well, he hasn't been tested, has he?" And I said, "Well, he's he's done all right with Rangers, and he said, yeah, that's a Mickey Mouse league. He said, he said. So I mean, that was to quote somebody else, not me, but.
I think Rangers have done all right in Europe. I think they've showed in Europe that you know, the standard football that they're playing isn't that bad.
Yeah, I think what he meant though was the fact that they haven't really got any credible opposition in the league that they play in. They, you know, with the exception of Celtic and maybe a couple of others that, you know, give them a decent game most of the time, they're guaranteed just to show up and win. You know, which doesn't really test the manager, and I think that's the point he was trying to make. It really doesn't test the manager's skill, does it? If you've got a team that you can afford, because Rangers has got one of the two biggest budgets in Scotland, you're going to get a decent side. You're going to rock up and you're going to beat whoever's in front of you, right?
Yeah, but I think sometimes you got to take a chance because you don't take the chance, somebody else snaps him up. He does well, then you're going to regret it. I think you sometimes you've got to take a calculated risk.
Yeah, well, maybe.
So, you know, personally speaking, I mean, Eddie Howe has gone to Newcastle, but personally speaking, if I'd been a Newcastle fan, I would rather have had Gerard than Eddie Howe. You know, not saying Eddie Howe didn't do a good job at Bournemouth, but I think he also didn't he have a year or two at Burnley and it didn't work out there that well? So, so I'm not convinced Eddie Howe is the man, but, you know, I'll be interested to see how they get on with him.
I think it's a good appointment personally for Newcastle, because I think it's one of those situations where if they'd gone for like a massive name in football,
yeah,
and they are still shite,
yeah,
then where do they go from there, right? Where do they go from there?
Yeah.
So, you know, they've got Eddie Howe. He can do what he did at Bournemouth. He can change it into the team that he wants it to be.
Yeah.
If they give him enough time to do that, obviously. And I think he could make a solid outfit. Whether he'll make them into world beaters, I'm not so sure, but he could certainly make them a solid outfit. You know, all of Eddie Howe's are always hard to beat. They're never a walkover. So I personally think it's a good appointment, to be honest.
Okay, so those were the midweek games. Then moving on to last weekend, then FA Cup. So last weekend was the FA Cup, and I can't remember who we started off with, but we'd come up with Maidenhead were the latest team to get the curse from. So they were playing at Halifax. So I think we were saying that Maidenhead, they play at one of the oldest grounds, if not the oldest ground in football today. And Alan Devonshire's their manager. They went up to Halifax, who'd beaten Pontefract Colliery in the previous round in a replay. And I think after about an hour, I tweeted you, was it 4-3 after 60 minutes or something?
Yeah.
And it ended up being 7-4. So good value for money there. And Biddy Waters, I know he got 2. Did he get a hat trick? I'm not sure, but I know he got a couple. And, and I was just saying to Jace beforehand that actually when we went to see, my wife and I went to see Cheltenham play 10 years ago, or no, it's more. No, it wasn't 10 years ago. It was 4 or 5 years ago. Sorry, what am I talking about? So, and he'd scored the penalty to seal a 1-0 win over Northampton, and Biddy Waters was her favourite player. He's kind of a smallish guy, isn't he? But,
very diminutive,
yeah. So anyway, so he got a couple in that game. But I didn't see the draw. Did you see the draw for the next round? There must have been the draw.
Yeah.
So Cheltenham, because Cheltenham, of course, drew with Gillingham. So the replay, I guessing, when's the replay? Is it next week or what?
Tuesday, yeah.
But for example, the league game has been called off, hasn't it, with Wimbledon because of international call-ups? Is that Wimbledon international call-ups or Cheltenham? Wimbledon.
Yeah, I think it's Wimbledon. Although Vassell, I think, is in the Irish squad, but I'm not sure.
Well, but it doesn't make any. So for the league, it has an impact on league games, but it doesn't necessarily have an impact on FA Cup games. Is that right?
Yeah.
So Cheltenham are playing Gillingham, but I don't know if they can get past Gillingham. Who are they going to play in the next round?
Wimbledon.
Wimbledon. So I don't know who Maidenhead. I don't know who Maidenhead have got. So let's hold on a minute. Let me see if I can find out who Halifax are going to play.
Smart move by Cheltenham as well. They've reduced the ticket prices for the replay to like a tenner.
Yeah.
To try and pack the ground out.
Yeah.
They're going to need. You know, Steve Evans. He's a dodgy old guy. He was doing everything in the book, well, out of the book to get our players sent off on Saturday.
Yeah.
He's a dodgy guy. He's for me, he should be managing somebody like Fisher Athletic.
Halifax are going to play Kidderminster.
Right. Come on, here he is.
Yeah.
I've got a mate that supports Halifax, believe it or not.
Oh, right. Yeah, they're away. They're away at Kidderminster in the next round.
They should win that, Halifax.
And the other one that brought back memories was there was a giant killing, and it was none other than St. Albans knocking out Forest Green.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. I definitely enjoyed that. Do you remember when we went to see St Albans? When they sponsored by Roy of the Rovers, and their program was like a Roy of the Rovers comic. Do you remember?
It rings a bell. But your memory's better than you can remember all those little details, whereas they go right over my head.
It's not as good as it used to be, but yeah, things like that do stick in my memory. I've still got the program somewhere.
Yeah, I know this as well. So we were talking about Fati at Barcelona. So Barcelona slapped a €1 billion release clause on him, and then Vinicius. It's rumored, so he's a forward at Real Madrid, that they're going to do something similar. I'm just wondering about, Barcelona, Real Madrid are clubs who've got a history of cherry picking players from other clubs. I'm just wondering why clubs like, other clubs don't do the same. And I'm just wondering whether they should be allowed to do that. It doesn't seem to me to be compatible with trying to control football inflation. Jace, do you have any thoughts on that?
I agree. I agree what you're saying. I don't think they should be allowed to do it, to be honest.
And then they will come along and just take whoever they want from other clubs.
Yeah, because they've got the financial clout to do it, which is wrong.
And of course, famously, what's his face? The Paris Saint-Germain, the Brazilian guy. So can't even remember his name now. What's his name? Neymar. What's the guy? The Brazilian guy at Paris Saint-Germain. Neymar. Yeah, so famously, he had a Lamar. Who was Lamar? Anyway, so he famously had 200 million euro, dollar, pounds. I don't know how much it was when he was at Barcelona, and bloody Paris Saint-Germain come along and bloody meet the release clause, don't they? They pay the release clause, which, although it's still a lot of money, it was 200 million. It was even more when they paid it.
You know, when it was Tony Adams. When it was Tony Adams, you know what the release clause was, don't you? Bail.
Okay, so Jace, who said this? Who said this? They tried in the second half, but they tried very hard in the second half, but we had the ball. Keep the ball in the fridge. Who said that?
Keep the ball in the fridge?
Yeah, I think he's saying that if we have the ball, we got the ball in the fridge, it means you can't get it.
That sounds like something Bill Shankly would have said.
Yeah, maybe. And I guess if you watch Liverpool in the 70s and the 60s as well, I guess, they used to play.
It's probably a Brian Clough statement, though, isn't it? It's probably Brian Clough.
No, it's actually Pep Guardiola said it. So
really?
So he was saying that. So I think the reporter put it to him that United kind of gave up in the second half, but he said no. They tried very hard, but we kept possession of the ball. So I remember you were telling me a few weeks back about how we were going on about the number of late goals that Cheltenham conceded. And you used to tell your kids, if you got the ball, the other team can't score. And I think it's the same point.
Yeah, basic.
It's the same point that he's making. You don't need to drop back and invite the other team on you. Be brave, have courage.
Just don't give it away.
Keep the ball. And if you watch City against United on Saturday, that's what they did. They continued to play high. They didn't drop back. They played high, and they just kept playing the ball around amongst themselves. Yeah.
Didn't Man United only have 18 touches in the opposition half or something?
Really? I don't know. I didn't see that stat, but I think they only had one shot on goal or something, or maybe it was. Anyway, City.
I saw that somewhere. They only had 18 touches in City's half.
Yeah, I didn't see it, but City played a good game anyway. Although, again, they had all the possession, but to be honest, I didn't think they looked very threatening in front of goal. But I'm not gonna call for Guardiola's head because his record is phenomenal. Even, of course, if he does have a lot of money and is able to play, has a lot of good players in his squad. Okay. We got another international 2-week break. We just finished one, and now we've got another one. 2 weeks.
We both shook our heads at the same time, then, and we both went like that.
But it sounds kind of elitist, doesn't it? I mean, so I'm in Japan these days, so I don't go to watch my teams play. So back in the day, I remember back in the 90s, or there were international games, but it didn't seem to affect me that much because I used to go and watch Cheltenham play anyway. So in the lower tiers, that there's still football going on. So it probably affects the Premier fans more than the lower league fans. So the lower league fans can just carry on as normal,
Anything below League One, then, you mean?
But we were just talking about the Cheltenham games being called off against Wimbledon. because it looks like Wimbledon have some international players. Yeah, another peeve of mine.
I remember the days. I also remember the days. I remember the days when it didn't matter if your players were called out; you still had to play.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Shit. At the end of the day, you've got international players. So what? Get some of your reserves playing.
Yeah.
So nonsense. So no, it's an absolute joke.
Okay, and then I noticed a peeve of mine, and you said, "Oh, it's you." You don't seem that worried about it. It was in the Watford game. I think Watford were taking a corner, and the guy who was taking the corner, he was on the linesman. I'm going to call him a linesman. Sorry, I'm not going to call him whatever he's meant to be called. Was on the other side of the pitch. So what does the Watford player do? He doesn't, when he's taking the corner, he doesn't put it in the quadrant. The edge of the ball's not even vaguely hanging over the line. It's like miles outside the quadrant.
Yeah, but they changed the rule, didn't they? They changed the rule.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so they changed the rule. So it's a peeve of mine as well, and I'll explain why in a minute. But they changed the rule so that if you're looking down on it from above...
Yeah, but it wasn't even that.
Yeah, but only a fraction of the ball has to be over the wide line.
Yeah, but it wasn't even a
fraction. Like you can see, but there can be daylight between. There can be daylight between, or green if you like, between the white line and the ball. But if the arc of the ball just is fractionally over, then that's all right.
Yeah, but it wasn't.
But my peeve about that is, why make a rule that then brings in controversy, right? Why not just make the bloody quadrant bigger?
Yeah, but even then, you know what would happen then? They just bring it in even further, you know what I mean? Yeah, but
just make the quadrant bigger, and you say the ball has to be inside the quadrant.
Yeah, but the ball wasn't even vaguely, not even the tip of the ball wasn't even vaguely over the line. It was like miles inside.
You know why they changed the rules?
Why is that?
It was a health and safety thing, believe it or not, because somebody got injured taking a corner by the corner flag. The corner flag injured them, right? And they took out a lawsuit, believe it or not. Wow. I didn't know who it was, but I can't remember who it was now. And then FIFA said, "Oh, we can't have that. We'll make it so that they can put the ball out further." Wow. Why not make the bloody quadrant bigger? Or get rid of the corner flag? Who needs a corner flag anyway? What's the point of a corner flag?
Yeah, that's right.
What is that?
Well, I guess.
What does it do?
But I think on the corner flag, because if there's no corner flag and the ball goes out, and then you got to determine, in some cases, it might be difficult to know if it went over for behind the line or over the sideline. So if you got the corner flag, it's going to determine which side it went out over.
But I know what you're saying, right? But a corner flag doesn't make a decision, right? It's the linesman that makes the decision.
Yeah, but
and if you're telling me that a linesman can't see whether the ball goes out over the touchline, whether it goes out over the byline, then what's going on? Because there's also an official.
There would be some instances where it'd be difficult to tell. Although, having said that, what about the one that if it goes out and it's at a height and it goes over the corner flag, then you have the same problem.
Exactly. And also, you've got something now that actually would clear that up. It's called VAR, right?
Yeah.
If you're not sure, in those rare occasions where you get that controversy, or did it go out over the corner or the whatever, right? You then go to VAR and say, "What is it? A corner or is it a throw-in?"
Yeah. Yeah.
So
where was that? Where was that lawsuit?
What?
Where was that lawsuit?
Oh, in Europe somewhere.
Okay, and yeah, see.
My answer would have been, well, be more bloody careful. You know the flag's there, right?
Okay, so
Anyway,
yeah, I think it's Emile. Is it Emile? Emile Smith Rowe. He's playing for Arsenal. They seem to be improving. What do you make of him? I think he's been called up for the England squad.
yeah, I've noticed that. Again, I think it's hard to tell, isn't it? Because I'd quite like to see him, before I made a judgment on him, I'd quite like to see him playing a better team than Arsenal, if that makes sense.
So, well, anyway, he's going to be playing for England, so we'll get to see him. But another English footballer, I don't know whether he's been included in the squad. I don't think so, but I think he's been in previous squads. Or played at the under 21s, maybe not the senior squad, and he scored an absolutely fantastic goal, cutting in from the left. Although I think ultimately they lost the game. Was Harvey Barnes for Leicester against, was it Leeds? Was it a draw? Maybe it was a draw. Mm-hmm. But did you see the goal he scored? Mm-hmm. The straight Leeds went ahead in the second half, and then straight from the kickoff, he just cuts in from the left and sends. He only had, it was like postage stamp, really. He put it the only place really where he could score, right in the top corner. Did you see that goal?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you make of him? Is he England material or
what? Yeah, I think he possibly is. Yeah.
Okay. And so we're saying that Steven Gerard has taken over at Villa, and that, of course, that's because Dean Smith has left them, which surprised me, to be honest. I mean, they lost Grealish, and they had lost 5 games in a row. But I think you've got to look at his record overall. I mean, he got them back into the Premier League, and I thought they played some good stuff. They had some big wins.
Yeah.
Was it at Liverpool or at United? They had a big win at Liverpool or United. And I thought,
you weren't going to mention it.
Yeah, I mean, but I thought he'd, overall, okay, 5 games in a row is something to worry about. But do you think that was a bit harsh, and they should have allowed him to rebuild without, with live?
Yeah, I think it was a knee-jerk decision. Another one.
But I saw a criticism. I don't know whether it was a criticism, but I forget who it was said it. It was one of the mainstream pundits. It could have been Chris Sutton or somebody like that. And he was saying that the problem with Grealish leaving was that Dean Smith had built everything around Grealish. Everything went through Grealish.
No, I think that's a bit hard.
Okay, and so Jurgen Klopp wasn't very happy after the West Ham game the other day. So there was the challenge on Alisson for the first goal, and then who's the left back? Cresswell. Aaron Cresswell went for the ball. I think he got some of the ball, but he had a bit of afters with he sort of nobbled Henderson. But VAR didn't do anything about it. I think this VAR is just showing up how bad our referees are. Personally, I mean, if without VAR, they can have the excuse, well, we all make mistakes, we're human. But I think what VAR's doing is it's telling us that even when they got VAR, they're still bloody hopeless, in my opinion. Jason, you any thoughts on that game?
I'm not sure we've got long enough. I was hoping we weren't going to actually get onto the topic of that bloody West Ham game, to be honest with you. I was a little bit incensed by it, and I don't say that from the viewpoint of a disgruntled Liverpool fan, right? I don't, and it's part of the reason why I haven't really said much on social media about it, because I know what everybody would say. Everybody would say, "Oh, you're just a bad loser," typical bloody scouser and all this kind of stuff. But actually, my opinions on that game was it was shocking from almost from start to finish, in terms of the way Liverpool approached it. I think I said to Sarah, my wife, before the game, I said I could see West Ham beating Liverpool today. She will tell you that. She said, "Really? Why?" And I said, "Well, he's got quite a tight unit there." I said, "And West Ham, whenever I see West Ham play, they always adapt to whoever they are playing. They don't play the same style of football week in, week out. They play a different style of football depending on who they're playing against, right?"
Yeah.
They sussed out Liverpool's press straight away. They also were very physical, which Liverpool don't necessarily respond well to. I've seen a lot of teams that have got results against Liverpool have been the sort of same teams that do the roughing up business, which Liverpool don't seem to be able to do or even combat for whatever reason. I don't know. I'm not sure I'd want to go up against Virgil van Dijk personally, but Liverpool don't seem to have that, what I would call the Steve McMahon way about them anymore, which isn't a bad thing, because I thought he was a bit of a dirty player, as was Steve Nicol when he wanted to be back in the day. But they don't seem to have that, that grit, that Roy Keane kind of grit, that
Graham Souness.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
Tommy Smith.
Yeah, they just don't seem to have it. So when things start going against them, or they start getting roughed up, they've got no answer to it. And that's exactly how West Ham played them. West Ham played them like that. Antonio up front, he is nothing but a complete thug. He is an absolute thug, and I don't mean that because he did to Liverpool. I've seen him against other teams. You watch him, and he never gets called up on it. He's always either holding the goalkeeper or the person on the goal line, or he's like backing into the goalkeeper. He's always doing all that kind of stuff, and he never, ever gets pulled up on it. And he was doing it the whole game against Alisson. And everybody was saying, "Oh, Alisson was all at sea for that first goal," right? Yeah, okay, he might have been all at sea. And then they said, "Oh, it was an own goal." And I've slowed that thing down 50 times on my big telly, right? Alisson doesn't get anywhere near it. So how the hell can they call it an own goal, right? And the reason they don't call it an own goal is because if they actually go to the last West Ham player that touched it, the guy slaps it into the net with his hand. So it can't be. It can't be that. So they have to give it as an own goal, right? And I'm thinking, what's going on here? And I was absolutely incensed by this, because I'd been watching Antonio up to that point, and he was backing into the keeper, he was grabbing him, he was doing this. So Alisson's like pushing him away because he knows he's going to be doing this, and the referee's just letting all this go. Instead of like having a word with the pair of them really before the corner's taken. And sure enough, exactly the same thing in the second half. Antonio's there roughing up the keeper. Nobody does anything about it, and then all of a sudden the keeper's having a bad game. Yeah. It's like, what?
Yeah.
Even when I was playing Sunday League football, right?
Yeah.
If I got within 2 feet of the goalkeeper, it'd be a free kick to the keeper.
Yeah.
Right. Because I'd be impeding or whatever, even if I was nowhere near him. These guys are all over the bloody keepers.
Yeah.
And nobody does anything about it. So, yeah. But, fair play to West Ham. They knew what they had to do.
Yeah, I think.
And they did it, and they did it effectively.
I think West Ham took a leaf out of Brentford's book. You talked to me about how they overloaded the far post. They seem to be targeting one side of the goal or the other.
It is definitely a weak area with Liverpool, and I think they're going to get found out by a lot more teams once these teams latch onto it. They, because up to that point, Liverpool in the season had looked, well, they looked like they could be possibly as good as the Arsenal team that went unbeaten, But to lose your unbeaten record to a team that just sets out to rough you up, you've got to be taking a long, hard look at yourselves. I think personally, Liverpool. I mean, you know me, I love Liverpool. I love watching Liverpool play, but that was painful to watch. And yeah, I mean, Alexander-Arnold's free kick was a good free kick. For the life of me, I don't understand why he's not in the England team regularly. I can't get my head around that.
Is he in the squad? Is he in the current? Is he in the current squad?
Yeah, I think he is, but he should have had more caps than he's got. We were talking about this the other day. There's been so many great players for England that have had one or two caps. Some of it had even no caps. You've got to ask why. What are they frightened of? But anyway, in terms of the free kick that led to that goal, everybody's saying Salah dived like he normally does. He didn't dive. Salah's on fire at the moment, and he doesn't need to dive. He'll dance around players. I mean, yeah, when he goes down a bit theatrically, and he has been given it in the past, but this season he doesn't need to. He's on fire. But you get yourself a reputation, you're going to get called out on it, I suppose.
Also, I don't know, because you used to live right near there. I don't know. Have you been to a game at West Ham, at the new ground?
Yeah. Not at the London Stadium. No, I went to see him. I went to see him at Upton Park, or the Berlin ground, as it was also known.
Yeah,
but not at Stratford. No, I mean, I know the locals when we lived there. I know the locals were against the idea because they said that it was too far away from the pitch and there was no atmosphere. There wouldn't be any atmosphere. It looked like the atmosphere was pretty electric when they beat Liverpool.
I was just going to say that. I mean, so the atmosphere has been criticised there before, but it looked to be absolutely heaving there on Saturday. Also, the other thing about that, I mean, I'd been fearing because Chelsea had a 5-point advantage over City, I think, going into the weekend games. And Chelsea had a home game against Burnley coming up. City were going to Old Trafford and Liverpool were going to West Ham. And what happens? City closed the gap to 3 points because Burnley go and get a draw at Stamford Bridge. I just think, and West Ham doing Liverpool, I think it just shows, you can't take most of these other clubs for granted, and I noticed Daniel Farke's left Norwich, even though they won his last game in charge. So
yeah, typical.
So I think it just shows, that maybe things are changing a little bit, and that's my feeling. That City, when I watch City, there aren't many easy games. Maybe before you could say, well, they're going to win this game, but there aren't many of those these days.
No.
Also, you got to remember that Liverpool played in the Champions League, City played in the Champions League, Chelsea played in the Champions League. Maybe we underestimate how much physically or emotionally, those games take out of players. So,
well, yeah. I mean, Liverpool looked they looked a different side in Europe to what they did against West Ham. And it does make you wonder if they were a little bit, because it's not just the game as well; it's the travelling involved. So, I mean, I know it's only Spain, but traveling's traveling, isn't it?
Well, to be honest, Liverpool, Man United played, I think, on Tuesday in Italy when Ronaldo got that last-minute equaliser, and then City played on the Wednesday Played on the Wednesday, but then they had to play the lunchtime game on the Saturday. So to be honest, I was a bit unhappy about that. But going back to Liverpool, so in that game, he was a player that when Liverpool signed him, Wayne Rooney, I remember saying, well, that's it. It's like you were saying, if City signed Harry Kane, might as well give up kind of thing. And Wayne Rooney said something similar when Thiago, was it Alcantara? He went to Liverpool. I know he's had injury problems, but things don't seem to be working out that well. Do you know anything about him, Jace? What's going on there?
No, I don't. I really don't. I have no idea.
But because I remember watching him at Bayern Munich, and I was surprised when he left Bayern because he was playing amazing, I thought. And then I thought, well, he goes to Liverpool. I mean, that's going to be scary, but it doesn't seem to have worked out that well.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on. So last weekend was the FA Cup. This weekend we got the FA Trophy coming up. So we've been keeping an eye on a few teams. One of them is Marske. You remember they won 7-0 at Bridlington. So this weekend they're playing. They got a home game against FC United of Manchester. Do you remember them?
Yeah.
So do you remember when they started? There was a lot of interest in them, but there doesn't seem to be that much interest these days, and the optimism and all that seems to have died away. Also, you were talking about Derry City to me, about your mates, Sabutio mates. Derry. They're from Derry. I'm guessing they're Derry City fans.
They are. I did mention to them that one of my best mates in Japan was a Sligo fan. It didn't go down too well, to be honest. But...
Well, you know who they're playing. You know who they're playing this weekend, don't you? They're playing. Derry are playing Sligo.
Sligo, yeah.
And Sligo look like they could be in Europe. They're in maybe third place. I think they got a good chance of being in Europe next year. Yeah, they call Derry City the Candy Stripes.
They do.
So actually, for a long time, during the Troubles, they didn't compete because of the Troubles in the 70s. Well, actually, it's a bit unusual with Derry because the anglicised name is Londonderry, but the football team's called Derry City. And so actually, even though it's in the north, they play in the League of Ireland, which is the Republic of Ireland's league. But actually, I've got a little story about them. So actually, Rod Collins of Cheltenham fame. So actually, I'm sure Rod Collins played for Derry. So I remember he banged in some goals from Derry. But actually, back in the day, when I played in Sligo, they had
John Collins.
So when I was in Sligo, a lot of their players played or were from Derry or had been Derry players. And actually, one of Sligo's former managers, I think he lived in Derry, Patsy McGowan, I think. So I've got a little story about that. So my brother and my dad, they went up to Derry because they're both northwest, but it's still kind of a long trek from Sligo up to Derry. And they went up for a game, the one Sunday, I guess it must have been. It was a daytime game. So that was when the games were generally at the same time. These days, the League of Ireland, I think, has gone the same way as other leagues, and they've staggered the games for television reasons. But so my brother and my dad went up to the game, and as they do, they went for a drink before the match. And my dad, he plays a harmonica, a mouth organ. He's a good player. So he plays at bars and all that. And he always takes his harmonica with him, because any opportunity, he's only too happy to show off, So anyway, they went up to the game, and they went into a pub in Derry before the game. I don't know how he started playing. Anyway, my dad starts playing away on the harmonica, and all the drinks came raining in. My brother and they just had a long line of pints of Guinness lined up because my dad was playing away on the harmonica. My dad said to me, they didn't get to the game until half time. They missed the first half. Okay.
I've had a few games like that with John, but that's for different reasons.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah. Yeah. So just have a look at the leagues. So second from bottom, looking at second from bottom this week. So Newcastle, second from bottom. So Eddie, how do you think he can turn that around, or do you think it's going to be a struggle? Can turn it around?
No. Yeah.
In the Championship, Barnsley, they're second from bottom. They seem to have a couple of good years, but they're one of those teams that every now and again, they seem to be kind of a little bit like Norwich between the Premier and the Championship. Barnsley, one of those teams who seem to Championship team, but sometimes threatened with Division 1. Division 1, but second from bottom is Doncaster Rovers. So they've moved up a spot because they were bottom a while back. Division 2.
Was that?
Doncaster Rovers.
Yeah. Why have they moved up?
All right. Yeah. Well, that's because of the how accommodating Cheltenham are. A bit like how City.
Exactly.
A bit like typical City. Yeah, Division 2, second from bottom is Carlisle. So how the mighty have fallen. I remember when John Ward left Cheltenham to go to Carlisle. And I remember speaking to some Carlisle fans, and I was saying, I don't know what all the fuss is about. Why, I don't know. What did you think of John Ward? What was your opinion of him?
He was Mr. Safe, wasn't he? I thought.
Yeah.
He did all right with us, but I think he lacked a little bit of ambition. But then I think at the time of John Ward, I think the board lacked. I think the board still does lack a bit of ambition, to be honest. But I think they just want to be safe. Really, that's all they want to be all the time. A bit like you. What was all the fuss about, really? But I'd quite like to see Carlisle go, because they were knocking on the door for years. They've had a few good seasons recently, but there was a spell where they were literally knocking on the basement door for a good number of years, and then, they need another Jimmy Glass. But I'd like to see him go at least to give him a kick up the arse, and sort yourself out, Carlisle. That's what I'm saying. I mean, they used to be an old League One team.
I remember.
Before the Premier.
Yeah, I remember. In Match of the Day, I remember them on Match of the Day.
Yeah.
Pendle, former, didn't the name Pendle used to play for Birmingham. I have him in my head. Maybe those old football cards. The old football card.
Yeah, I do remember. Yeah.
Okay, second bottom of the National League, oldest shot. So they were a perennial strugglers in the football league for a long time.
That's something that Cheltenham goalkeepers have a problem with. Older shot.
Yeah,
all goalkeepers should play for older.
In the National League, you were asking about Wrexham. They're 13th. They're 13th in the National League.
Yeah, good. And also he got locked out of the cup as well. Excellent. After being in front.
In National League,
I enjoyed that. I thought, where's your Hollywood owners now to enjoy that?
In the National League North, listen to this. National League North, okay? This is the National League North, okay? So second from bottom are Blythe Spartans, okay? Giant killers from the past. You know where Blythe is, you know where Blythe is, don't you?
Yeah.
Like extreme northeast, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is the National League North, okay? So Blythe Spartans are second from bottom, and just said, as I said, they're like way up in the northeast. Who are bottom in that league? National League North.
Oh, it's something like Gloucester City, is it?
Gloucester City are bottom of National League North. I mean, they regionalised those leagues for financial reasons and time considerations, but that is some trek from Gloucester up to Blythe. Bloody hell.
Yeah.
Okay, second bottom of National League South. We were talking about them the other week, I think, in one of the FA competitions. Hemel Hempstead, a second bottom. And then for an overseas league, I gone into the Austrian Bundesliga. So there's a German Bundesliga, but there's also an Austrian Bundesliga. And second bottom are SC Rheindorf Altach.
It's easy for you to say.
Okay, we got World Cup coming up, Jace. So in Africa, they're just coming to the conclusion of their group games in Africa. I think Morocco and Senegal have already booked their places then there's going to be playoff games. So that Africa have 5 places at next year's World Cup finals. So Morocco and Senegal have already booked their places in the playoffs, but Algeria and Burkina Faso, they're neck and neck. And then it's the usual suspects are vying for places in the playoffs, although maybe Mali and Tanzania are not teams we know that well. Okay, and then to finish off, just getting up, continue with that World Cup. So next year, the Premier League is going to stop for 6 weeks. So they're going to stop playing midway through November and then resume on Boxing Day. The Champions League will be decided by then, the group stages. Do you think that could become more permanent, like take a break like they do in Germany, for example, or do you think it'd just be a one-off?
Well, I did wonder some years ago whether we would get to that stage, because there used to be so many games that got called off in the winter, but that's almost becoming a bit of a thing of the past now. Certainly in the Premier League, anyway, because they got undersoil heating and all that crap. You get in the lower leagues, you get games called off. But also our winters aren't as harsh as they used to be either. Yeah,
that's my opinion. That's what my opinion is as well.
I remember the days when we used to play in bloody thick snow with an orange ball, as we talked about before. But I mean, that wouldn't happen now. If you get a couple of flakes, it's like called off, because you can't afford for somebody to slip and hurt themselves and all that kind of stuff. Bloody hell. Not like it was in our day where you'd risk literally getting frostbite on your toes and they wouldn't care. They'd say, get on with it. No, I don't think it'll happen. I just can't see it. If anything, I think it would go the other way. I think they just cram more football in, to be honest, rather than having a break.
Okay, and then just to finish, so left-sided midfielder or winger for our all-time 11. So let's just go through the all-time 11s again. In goal, you have got Ray Clements, right back, Daniel Passarella. I keep laughing about that. Left back, your left back, Roberto Carlos. Central defenders, Alan Hansen, Ruud Krol. Right-sided midfield. Did you go for George Best? And then,
yeah, but like we said, I mean, George Best could play on the left as well.
Yeah, and then I forget your other two midfielders. Who were your other two midfielders?
Gascoigne was one of them.
Did you say Johan Cruyff as well? Was Cruyff there?
Yeah, but again, he's another one. He's another one that could play on the left.
Well, he's my left-sided winger. I've got George Best on the right and Johan Cruyff on the left. Yeah, I don't think you chose Paul Gascoigne as your midfielder. I think you chose somebody else, but I can't remember who it was.
Well, I was going to go for Gascoigne.
All right.
Maybe switch one of the others.
Okay.
Switch one of the others to the left.
Yeah, just go through my. I had Neville Southall in goal. Right back, I had Cafu. Left back, I had Maldini. In defense, who did I have in defense? I can't bloody remember who I had in defense. Central defenders. I had Desai and then Beckenbauer. Midfield, George Best, Maradona, and Makaleli. And I'm going to choose Johan Cruyff as my left-sided player. How about you? Who are you going to go for?
Well, oh dear. Did I say Steve Coppell for my right side of midfield?
You did. You had Steve Coppell there.
So what I'm going to do, I'm going to change it a little bit, and I'm going to have Steve Coppell out on the right.
Yeah.
I'm going to switch George Best to the left, and I'm going to have Cruyff just inside him, and then just inside Coppell, I'm going to have Gascoigne.
Okay. That's it, Jay. So let's call it a day there, and then let's, if it's we have time, let's do another one. Maybe Monday week or somewhere around then. Maybe leave out next week. What do you reckon?
No, I think Monday should be okay.
Okay, Monday.
Just have a quick look in my diary. Hold on. Just need to know what I'm doing next week, really. It's Monday, 15th, isn't it? Yeah, should be good. Monday.
15th. Okay, so yeah, okay, then let's do one on Monday for you, Tuesday for me. Okay then.
Okay, mate.
See you then.
Have a good weekend.
Yep. Stop. What's that? Right. Where is it? Where's the record? I can't find the bloody record. Hold on.
It's still recording.
It's still recording. Oh yeah, I have to put it on big screen. Okay, so